that you go like, hang on, those don't align with my values. Why am I even promoting these things? So you have to have lived through that alienation, self-alienation, I could call it. And then you have to go full circle. That's the work that people come to me to work with me. They have to go full circle back to yourself and go like, oh, wait, I abandoned my values. How did that happen? Why did that happen? What were my vulnerable my vulnerable places? So it's really about being believed, about being validated, about having a safe space to speak, although I might feel crazy.
Yeah.
Right? To me, that's the first and most important step, to go like, hey, let me know what's going on to help you make distinctions and be heard.
We've gone only a few minutes. You've already made me take like 3 different notes.
Yeah.
I'm going like, and I'm going to have to change the sheet here because I got other notes on here. So now I'm going to run out of room. Self-alienation. I've never heard that aspect before. If you are listening to this or watching it, we know the majority of you listen to the show. If you're listening to this and you feel that you're going through some type of self-alienation, if somebody's going through that, how can what's one thing that they need to be mindful of to regain a sense of self?
What I hear over and over, I just heard it yesterday in my practice again, that somewhere I knew, somehow there was a sense something was off. We do have those senses. We all do. But then, the promises are so fancy. They are so fantastic.
Grandiose. They're so big.
Grandiose. And then future faking and you name it, the whole thing. Then we go like, now we start to doubt ourselves. And that again is partly something that we have grown up with, but partly it's also manipulation tactics, because that person who wants to manipulate you is not so very interested in you having a clear sense and clear radar and clear, antennas. Hey, you're bullshitting me. No, they want people to doubt themselves. So let's not underestimate the power of manipulation, and let's not underestimate the power of innate wisdom and our radar for healthy and for unhealthy behavior.
Yeah. So we can begin to possibly, because of the manipulation, let me see if I get this right, if not, correct me. Because of the manipulation, we can begin to think that they actually have healthy behavior, but they don't.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly right. All of a sudden, that's something that also you guys who listen, you might recognize in yourself. All of a sudden, the point of reference, the authority is out there. The authority for fair behavior, the authority for healthy behavior, the example for how to do things, how to have healthy boundaries, and all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, we place it out there, rather than live according our own values. So all of a sudden, that's what I meant with self-alienation. That's something that we contribute to the dynamic, is to leave our own authority behind as if it was total trash.
Yeah, like it was totally unimportant. What we feel inside, our instincts, our values, all of a sudden they're not correct. Let me see what their values are.
Yeah, what their ideas are, what their likes and dislikes are. We will dive into that deeper, one video at a time, but just to name it for you guys to know where we are going, where we're heading to, is this is something that we have learned in early childhood. When our reference point was outside, on the caretaker, on the parent, on the mother, on the father. Okay, so that's something where we are going to go to in a later point. But in a way, this is still playing out. What I feel, what I like, what I think is right, what I feel, that's how I would like to show up in life. All of a sudden, I don't give that value anymore because I have abandoned my own needs, my own wants, my own values, my being, basically. And we don't abandon it like, hooray, let's leave all of that behind. 40 years of life experience, just forget it. No, there is a dynamic going on of manipulation and a lot of stuff, gaslighting and all that kind of stuff.
So someone starts to undermine those things. A person begins to, let's say it's me, I began to forget those values, those things. I didn't just immediately give it up and go like, man, I'm glad I don't do that. I'm just going to live that person's life. But it does happen to people that they end up living someone else's life, a toxic person, an unsafe person, an unhealthy person. But then things change. At some point, something is sparked, and they start to recognize this is wrong.
Yeah. And that's such an important point. I can't emphasize enough. It usually comes with a big crisis. It's like the last drop. And but it's that important point because that's when we wake up. We go like, no, that was too much. That was too big of a lie. That was too blatant. That was too much of a betrayal. That was behavior that I don't want to be associated with. This is like a no-go. It's just been too much. And there is, I say women because I work more with women than with men for whatever reason. I don't know. That's how it happens. But there's women who have been either with a toxic parent, in contact with a toxic parent. They're in their 60s. And the parent might be 85, and there's still that same dynamic going on, and the same, and you go like, and then they wake up just before, just
the parent is about to die.
Exactly.
Before the parent dies, it's like, then they wake up.
Or then they wake up. Or, I have worked with women who have been in a relationship with a highly toxic person for 30 years. And a lot of stuff happens when that moment comes. Okay, that sparked something. I cannot ignore what's going on here. And what I would like you all to know is when that point comes, when that recognition comes, it's normal and it's bound to happen that contradicting emotions will be experienced. Relief, grief, anger, sadness, I have wasted my life, betrayal, trauma, depression, you name it. So everything gets stirred up, and it's good, and that's my work, to have someone who guides us a little bit and goes like, hey, you're on the right track. I know it feels like a roller coaster, but this is where we have to go now, in a safe container. And it's a blessing. It is a blessing to have at least one person who believes you, who has your back, who is empowering you, and who is validating what you've gone through.
It can be addicting to be on the roller coaster for some people, and it's hard for them maybe to leave it. Is that possible? That they're addicted to that roller coaster with that unhealthy, toxic, narcissistic person?
In fact, we have research that we call it the wheel of violence or the wheel of abuse. That we will also go into detail at a different point. But it basically is, there's a crisis, and then it's good, and then it's quiet, and then tension builds up, and that's how it repeats over and over again. And that creates a chemical cocktail in our blood, hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, heart rate, all that kind of stuff. That is like an inside drug. And then the endorphins, that kick in. Oh, it's good again. Woo, we survived the, whoa, okay, the war is over. We survived it. And then the hope, it's not going to happen again. Just a little bit of realistic view. It happened the past 30 years. It's extremely likely to happen again.
Pretty
and it
much,
will
yeah.
happen again. So what we know from research, it takes women an average 7 times to leave a narcissistic or a toxic, let's say a toxic relationship. 7 times, 7 attempts to leave in average. So that can mean 10, 12, 15 for some women. And we know that it is that wheel of abuse is just as addictive as heroin is. So don't underestimate when that spark, something's wrong here, does not necessarily translate into I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Because those drug addicts, those junkies, they know it's not healthy.
Yeah.
And they are going back.
Yeah, they're going back. They're going back. A person can find themselves going back into that pattern of abuse. We're not just, so essentially, just for those who are listening for the first time or coming here and grabbing some information, and we truly appreciate you doing that. We're not talking about somebody who just decides to just be difficult or, as the expression goes, a quote unquote jerk or just being obnoxious. We're talking about a pattern or a cycle of abuse. So you said a chemical cocktail begins to develop in which a person can get addicted to that. That's challenging, Julia. I'm thinking to myself, each person is different. So not everything that one person may try will work for another person. Just like every addict is different.
Each person is different. And what I found in my own journey and what I find working with clients is there is certain circumstances that support us on healing. I mean, it's different if you had a toxic parent, because that's differently ingrained in our system than if you happen to fall for a narcissistic person in your 30s or 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's different. And there's so many women. I mean, we hear that all over the place. I went no contact, but I'm so longing. I can't stand the longing. I need to see him again. I need to, I can't live. And that is the addiction. That's what that junkie tells you as well. I need to have heroin again. I can't do it without it. That's addiction. So we are on withdrawal. And again, we can also be on withdrawal with a toxic parent or a toxic sibling.
Toxic boss, whatever it may be. Yeah.
So we are not only, what we speak here is more about toxic intimate relationships, but we can translate all of this to friendships, to acquaintances, to neighbors, to bosses. I mean, you're really screwed when you have a narcissistic boss, because you might depend on that job. And you can't go no contact with your boss, right? You can divorce your parent. I like that. I really like that expression. You can divorce your parent. It's okay to go no contact with your own parent. But then there might be circumstances for women to stay in very, very toxic circumstances. And men, of course, right?
Of course, yeah. So it's not just a blanket check that somebody could just write and say, okay, I've done that and I'm done. There are circumstances, and we want everybody to understand that. That's another strong factor of Julia being here, as she's been on numerous shows before when we were on Instagram, and a couple here on YouTube, is to highlight to you that we're looking at providing you with stepping stones and tools that you'll be able to work with Julia. You'll be able to implement yourself if you find yourself where no contact is impossible. Tips and tools that you can put into your emotional toolbox to be able to navigate situations and circumstances. I got to touch on something for you. You didn't know this. Of course, you trust me a lot of times you come on, but I decided to open my mailbag for you today. First
Okay,
time I'm doing this.
let's go ahead.
So I scoured through, narrowed it down. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we'll see what I know, but I've got something else for you later, so we may not get to all of them. So I'm just going to try this. Here we go. I know you don't work predominantly with men, or the case may be, but for the guys out there, some of you may know this subject, and I'm going to toss it to Julia today. Male victims of narcissistic abuse, what advice would you give them?
Honestly, I don't think there's much difference in terms of the healing journey. I can imagine that being validated and being believed and being encouraged to trust one's own voice can be even more important for men, because often this is easier for women, just for how we are socialized, right?
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Stick it through, be strong. Oh, come on. That's a conversation that can easily happen between men. Whereas, hang on, this is intense stuff that's going on. Tell me more about it. That's not necessarily a conversation that men easily can access with their friends. It very much depends on the maturity level they have themselves and in their circle of friends.
It depends on the emotional maturity of the men that they hang around with and themselves. Yes, that's true.
Exactly.
If not, you're right. That conversation is not happening.
That conversation is not happening. I mean, it's also not happening for women. So I really don't want to paint it that black and white.
Yeah.
That's why therapy and consultation and these kind of videos and blogs and podcasts are so important, because often there we can get the validation, and there we can get the information that goes beyond, oh my goodness, she's really a bitch, she's so terrible. That doesn't help.
No,
it doesn't help. You get it off your chest, but it helping
in the long run, it's going nowhere.
Exactly.
It actually becomes like a big cycle in itself of just anger and not recovery. It's hopping from one angry video about narcissists after another, and the person truly can sink down into a deeper depression if possible.
That's what I'm trying to avoid when I speak. I'm trying to avoid to add to the charge that is there when we speak about that topic. I hear many people speak about their personal experience with a toxic person, and often you can feel that anger, that disappointment that is still there, that they
resentment
that they themselves haven't worked through. But then what happens, there's an underlying information of anger, and they are wrong, and they are the ones to blame, and I'm right, and I'm the victim, and no one saw me. That's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. I'm interested in finding peace. Let people be how they are. They need to live with themselves. But I can't dedicate my life to distorted people, if we say it like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's one thing that I would like to add at this point, and I would like to address blame, guilt, and shame.
Mm-hmm. Hold on one second. Let me just cross those out, because I had I had blame and blame shifting. So let me just go ahead and cross that. You're in Spain. How did you do that? Okay, go ahead. That was really good. We've done too many shows together. Go ahead.
So also what I'm trying to avoid when I speak is to add to the concept of blame, shame, and guilt.
Mm-hmm.
If you, Paxton, I, Julia, you out there, if you were to choose your reaction, and many times you would choose differently.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us, we have been conditioned in a certain way. We have vulnerable spots that we will speak about also in one of these shows.
Correct, yeah.
And if we knew better, we did better. And if we knew to relate in a healthier way, we did relate in a healthier way. So there is no blame. I'm not to blame for having believed more than one and more than two and more than three manipulative people, right?
Yeah.
And that even that person is not to blame, although that's not our concern, because they had their trauma, and I don't want to live one day in their shoes. You know, I'm happy in I definitely prefer my wounded shoes over a narcissist's shoes, because I don't want to live a day in their, I don't want to live a day of their life. So I hope that you all can hear that the healing journey also means to deal with what is here and now. So that spark that you said earlier, that recognition something's off, then that goes into a deeper healing journey, a step-by-step recovery. And then it also means to dive into our own biography and into our own vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no blame. We are innocent. We are totally innocent. If we knew better, we did it better. I mean, just like this is common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to go down the path of blame or looking to attribute external accountability to someone else for the manipulation and other things. It's one thing to be aware of it. It's another thing for it to control our life and the healing, or in other words, the recovery, the restoring of dignity. All of those things are things we can handle ourselves. I find when you talk about blame and other things, I know we're going to do other shows on it, and it's so tempting to go down this road right now, but we're not. We're not everybody.
Me too.
Yeah, I know, and me too. So I we're not doing it. So I'm going to toss this out to you. We already touched on it, but one of the questions was how to handle a narcissistic boss. I guess you could take the word boss off and put mom, dad, whatever you want to put there. So touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. That is such a good question, because there is relationships that we cannot leave. Or there is relationships that we have to interact with every now and then. And I want to be prepared. So I decide to stay in touch with my parents. Let's put that up as an example. Or I decide to stay in touch with my sister-in-law or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I have to meet them for Christmas or for Thanksgiving. Okay, so be prepared is like the most important thing. You know what you're signing up for. You have experienced that person 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. You know what to expect of them. You know sooner or later they will pull the trigger.
Yeah, you know what's coming at some point, right?
You know what's coming at some point. It might come sooner, it might come later.
But it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming, baby. It's one way or the other. It's coming.
You know, once we have understood their functioning, they are so predictable. Yeah. So when I said earlier, don't focus on that other person, that didn't mean don't understand their functioning, because
don't
that's
be aware of
healthy.
it. All the above.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
We need to be aware of it. It's coming. Okay, but so this time I don't go in with hope. Oh, it's going to be a wonderful Thanksgiving. It will be so loving. It hasn't happened the past 40 years, but this year definitely it will happen. Yeah. And then I get surprised, I get disappointed, I get angry, I get reactive, and it all goes down the drain. But this time I go like, okay, it hasn't happened the past 40 years. It's not that likely to happen this year. It's more likely that there will be this one comment I usually react to. There will be this incredible unfriendly behavior. There will be this and that and that. But I'm prepared. And I can go and say, oh, excuse me. I need to excuse myself. I just quickly need to go to the bathroom. I just got such an important message. I have to reply to that.
Yeah.
I have no problem whatsoever with small excuses or lies like that.
Step aside moments, your step aside moments, as my mom used to call them. It's a step aside moment.
Exactly.
I need to step aside.
To save your own sanity. To save your own sanity. I mean, why?
Yeah.
Why would you give your sanity, your peace?
Waking up every morning thinking about them, go to bed at night thinking of.
You're a toxic person.
Yeah. Now
why
you become a disciple of the toxic person all of a sudden.
And that's the same in that moment. Also, just to mention that briefly, there is like responses, like standard responses that you can read through and train a little bit. And I just had such a funny interaction with a client yesterday. You know, when someone tries to blame shift and blame you for, in the most absurd way, you can like, yeah, I totally get that you see it that way. I really do. Period.
This is good. I love the silence part. I love it just like it's a period and they're thinking it's a comma. It's like, no, I'm done. I get it. That's how you see it. That's good.
That's how you see it. Yeah. And I agree to disagree.
Yeah. Without continuing the disagreement. Without continuing this disagreement.
But you have done this and you're that and you're such a jerk and what have you done?
It. Yeah.
I so understand that you see it that way.
Yeah.
So it requires and I can even stay, it requires some
I see what you're saying.
Some strength, and it requires we have to stand what comes up inside when we do that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, have buying into their circling arguments ever changed anything? Has it worked once? I mean, just once? It hasn't. So why would I do that again after I have done that for 10 or 15 or 20 years? Right? So that's like, be prepared, manage your expectations. That wonderful Thanksgiving is not going to happen. Nope, it's not. And just have a few, I'll go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. I need to make this important call. Yeah? That's so important, to manage your own sanity, peace. Don't let them get your peace. It's not worth it.
Don't let them get you. Don't get eliminated. Okay, so, all right, here's another one here for you. All right, how do you heal from emotionally abusive parents? Any recommendations, suggestions that you'd like to give? Of course, everyone, before you answer that one there, for everyone here, I'm going to put something up. Just in case you're wondering, you can always, if you see on the screen there, go to Julia's YouTube channel. By all means, subscribe and support her there. And, of course, you can always check out her Instagram as well. More important than anything else, here we go. Hold on a second here. I'm going to get to it. Just give me a second, everybody. You have this. On the screen, you mentioned, would you like to tell everybody about that? You have a PDF checklist?
Yeah, I compiled a PDF checklist with the most common and the not so well-known red flags that can give you an idea if you are in a narcissistic/toxic relationship with an intimate partner or anyone else, really. Right? Because until we haven't done that research and haven't gathered that information, we don't know. There's a feeling, there's a sense that something's off, as we said earlier, but we don't know where to place it. And then that self-doubt kicks in. So that's what I compiled that PDF for. I think it's actually, I don't remember exactly, but it might be up to 30 different points that you can really read through and go like, that's actually what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this thing they are also doing. So it gives you validation for what you feel, but you might also realize, oh no, there's something different going on. I don't know. I still don't know exactly what's going on, but it's not that what's going on, right? So people have told me that they really appreciated that checklist. It helped them to find clarity, to gain clarity, to understand where they stand and where the other person stands. So if you want to send me an email to julia@traumainanutshell.com, I will send that free PDF checklist. And then I will keep you informed about upcoming shows and stuff that's coming.
Sounds good. And so it's kind of like an emotional compass. If you need an emotional compass, you need to get some sense of direction, feel free to reach out to Julia. All of the things. Hold on 1 second. Don't do nothing here. Your show is playing all of a sudden. I don't know how that started. It just out of the blue, it just started happening.
See, we are everywhere, anywhere and everywhere.
And now here. This is the first. You're just playing everywhere. I have no idea how you're playing. There we go. So, all of a sudden I heard Julia's voice way over here. Okay. So one of the main things that we wanted to do was provide as much opportunities for you to get some measure of information on a consistent basis that will help you heal.
Yeah.
That is affordable for everyone. It costs you zero. So it's affordable there. But the question that came out of the mailbag, or NATV community mailbag, was how to heal from emotionally abusive parents. So let's go ahead and tackle that.
Yeah. You know, that is not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step process. When we have grown up with emotionally abusive parents, which more of us have than we actually realize. As I said earlier, it's so deeply ingrained into our core wiring, into how we function, how we relate to ourselves and the world. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a second skin. So once you have become aware of, oh, that was not healthy behavior. My parents, my mother, my father, didn't relate to me in a way that was appropriate, emotionally appropriate for the age I had.
Got it, yeah.
It was not emotionally appropriate for the parent-child relationship. Once you recognize, you're already, that's it. That's already the biggest step. Because what that means is that there's a little distance between your ingrained experience and your awareness, right? So you're aware of something was not quite okay. And once there is this little distance and once there's awareness, then we can start the healing journey. Only without awareness, I mean, where are we going to go, right?
True.
And then again, we'll have contradicting emotions. We love our parents. We know that kids can be hit, can be beaten badly, and they still love their parents. There will be a lot of contradicting emotions. Love, grief, that it wasn't different, although I needed it different. Missed opportunities, a missed sense of safety and security. And this is things that need to have space, that need to be given space, things that need to be witnessed in a safe container by a healthy person. We always say trauma that happens in relationship heals in relationship. Unfortunately, those of us who have grown up with emotionally or physically abusive parents tend to seek a similarly organized partner later in their life. Relationship
similar to the parents.
Similar to the parents. So then it obviously doesn't heal, but it gets repeated. That's what we call re-traumatization. So then we repeat the trauma that we have already experienced in our childhood. Mm-hmm. That's why so many people find comfort in therapy, because obviously therapy is supposed to be a safe space. Consultation is supposed to be a safe space, an appreciative space. And in the relationship with a good friend you trust, in the relationship with a counselor you trust, there can be corrective experiences made. So now I show up vulnerably and I'm not put down. Mm-hmm. Now I show up with my grief and it's okay and being given space. And that's the direction we want to go. Mm-hmm. So it also requires a little bit of self-discipline, because we consciously need to stay away from toxic people, knowing that if we hang out there again, we are easy prey for re-traumatization. And that's not very loving.
When you say we are, you mean individuals who've already been abused because of the parents are vulnerable again to be re-traumatized?
Yeah, I mean, if we continue to seek company of people who are unhealthy, what can we expect? Or we can expect to be hurt again, and that's re-traumatizing to a person who has been hurt all their life. So we consciously need to learn, what does a healthy person look like, in fact? Because some of us have never been around a healthy person and they don't know the distinction. So you see, the learning starts much, much earlier. We can tell because we feel more at ease with a healthy person. We feel safer. So we want to seek out those people and we want to trust those people.
So slowly. A person is not always looking over their shoulder, not just physically, but just emotionally. They're not always feeling unsafe. And again, that could be a totally different experience for somebody. They may have, like you said, never experienced that. If you find yourself going down that road, or you're already living or journeying down that road, which you've never had a healthy relationship, that's why Julia is extending herself with that PDF, Are You in a Narcissistic Relationship? So it's not that PDF is not just limited to, again, romantic partners, right?
Yeah, we can translate all of that to different degrees to other relationships. Obviously, you have different things going on with your boss that you don't have going on with your boyfriend, and the other way around, because you might be very dependent.
That's true.
May
be dealing with both. Maybe dealing with both.
Yeah.
And you can't tackle them exactly the same.
Yeah, and if your parent is 85 and not a healthy person, it's also different than your boss or than your intimate partner.
So wait a minute now. I'm just sitting there going, it could be the boyfriend or husband. It could be the boss. It could be the parents. It could be one of your female friends. Of course, this can apply for guys as well, but we're going down this road here. It could be a number of people. And again, that person is now exposed to a pattern of a cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
And Julia, that's crazy, right? That's crazy. That's just wow.
That's wild. I mean, it is wild.
Yeah.
And
it's wild.
Honestly, the more I understand the nuances of toxic behavior, because when we speak about narcissists, we have this one picture, that big, grandiose.
Yeah.
But this is like a full-blown grandiose narcissist. That is relatively easy to identify.
Yeah, there it is. Right, easy. But this toxic aspect, totally different.
And it can be a comment. It can be a way of not being supportive.
Very subtle.
It can be very subtle. And the more I myself become aware of the subtleties, I will like, they are everywhere. They are everywhere. So where do I go?
Toxicity is everywhere. It's oozing out of manholes and potholes everywhere.
So we really need to learn, rather than, oh, they are so crazy, or they are so distorted. We need to learn, how do I show up, and how do I deal with manipulative people when I have to? Because now I don't get the numbers right, but there was, I will look that up and put it in a comment. There was an article in the Atlantic in October of last year, and I think the number was every 13th person is on a toxic spectrum. Every 13th. That means we deal with them, if we want to or not. This is not a choice. This is just happening. That's part of reality.
Just crossing paths. Crossing paths with people that are extremely toxic.
And,
and we don't want to contribute it by us being toxic either. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, colleagues, friends of friends, acquaintances. I mean, we named a few. So we need to learn ways and tools. Okay, I see that person isn't healthy. I don't need to know much more, but I need to know, how do I show up? What do I need to not be affected too much? We need to stop to focus on them. They are who they are. They live their life. I recognize it. Okay, how do I show up now? What do I do? I might extend my loo break. Until the conversation is over. Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
I like that. Because we can get so ingrained and out of habit to focus on what someone else is doing, to the point that we lose sight on having a foundation of growth for ourselves. Yeah. All of a sudden, our journey becomes slower toward recovery and toward fortifying our dignity as a human being, to the point that we are essentially handing over most of our time and energy and mental space to the addiction of narcissistic video after video and subject after subject and show after show.
Say that, Paxton. It's so important that you say that. And I can predict those who will end up in a toxic relationship again, because as long as we stay hypnotized, just like you said, outward focused on that person, and don't turn inward and really look inside, inevitably we will end up with a toxic person again. There's no way around it. So we really need to, okay, I recognize you. I recognize a Chinese person. Yeah, because he's speaking Chinese. Okay. It's
right.
recognizing.
No, right. Yeah.
Not a bad person, just a Chinese person, or a Dutch or a German or whatever, right? So how do I want to deal with a toxic person when I have to? And if I don't, I don't. If I don't, I don't. That's it.
So just because they're speaking that narcissistic language doesn't mean we have to have a conversation with them and get into their world.
Yeah.
So awareness becomes more important than just having information. Because taking in the information that's an ongoing, you can do that 24/7. But that doesn't mean a person has grown in their awareness to fortify and protect themselves and make their life better. All they're doing is on a constant state of vigilance and looking over their shoulder, looking for someone that's labeled as such.
Yeah. And that is a stage. In the best case scenario, that's a stage. We need to educate ourselves. We need to wake up. We need to raise awareness. We need to understand what's going on. And there is vigilance when we have experienced enough trauma. There is vigilance. It's all normal. But in the best case scenario, that's a stage. And then we go like, okay, I recognize who you are. Okay. That a circling argument, discussion has never worked for both parties with a narcissistic person. It has never. So
it's going nowhere. It's going nowhere.
It's going nowhere. So why would you sign up for that? I mean, if you're bored to death, and if you think it's that fun, but there's no people out there.
Oh, I hope they're not bored to death like that. That's just like, oh my goodness.
You know, I don't know anyone who enjoys this stuff. So just stay away.
just stay away. Yeah, there you go. Just stay away.
Yeah,
It's
stay
not
away.
healthy for you. Don't do it. It's not healthy for any of us
And
to do it.
and to quickly mention that, and I'm sure we will go into that also in more detail. It's easier said than done, because we go into we buy into those arguments and into those fruitless discussions, because there's a sense of injustice, there's a sense of not being heard, of again not being understood, of being misinterpreted, and we need to. That's part of the one step on the healing journey, is to, yes, this person is not understanding where I'm coming from. And it's not in my power to change that. And we need to grow that capacity to accept that reality. But I remember I was like, you need to understand me. Oh, come on, it's not that difficult. Oh, just listen. It can't be that hard. The rest of the world understands where I'm coming from. Please, for God's sake. And we waste our energy in another loop, in another day, in another hour.
I don't want you to have any flashbacks right now, because you're doing so well in life right now. I don't want you to go back there. But you're sharing with us. A person can get amped up like that, right? We can get amped up thinking, look, the entire universe understands what I'm saying. Let me say it to you for the 77th time. Just make sure you can get it too. If they don't want to be brought along, they don't want to be brought along. They want to continue that manipulative circle of confusion. Let them have it. Let them do their smear campaigns. Let them do whatever that they desire. I want to touch on two things, rather three things, before we go.
Yeah,
of what you just said, some notes that I've been taking. So you had mentioned about validation, vulnerable or vulnerability, and about I want to be prepared, or a person needs to be prepared. So we're going to touch on those real quick before we have to go. So if a person is feeling misunderstood, they're trying to co-parent or a number of other things, where can that person go that's dealing with these toxic, unhealthy, unsafe people, narcissistic people? Where can they start looking for validation if they know they're not going to get it when they're dealing with that person or family member or boss, whatever? What are some areas that they can be aware of that they can possibly go to and get some sense of emotional validation for what they're going through? Of course, I'm always going to say NATV network. Okay, go ahead. I was just going to say, you can always come to NATV and get that. But go ahead. You were going to say?
That is important. Not everyone can afford therapy.
Correct.
Not everyone's, women, mothers have small children. They don't have childcare. They might be able to afford it, but they don't find a slot to go to therapy. There's many scenarios. So things like NATV is important. There is self-help groups. There is wonderful websites that do wonderful work. There is free information out there. A lot. That's the beauty of that we can access all that information. Rule of thumb, which I really would like you all to hear: no matter how desperate you feel, don't, if you can help it, don't reach out to that person.
Oh, got it.
Okay, because it's going to end up like it always ended up. You won't find real heartfelt validation, and you won't be heard and felt by that person because they're lacking that capacity. So find one person that you trust, your best friend who believes you, your aunt, that one podcast where you feel, wow, they really, they put words to what I experience. Many clients tell me they start reading a book and they go like, this is my life. I had no idea other people are living through that. I thought that was me in my own movie, but there's words for that. So seek those little things, and where you feel safe and where you feel that there's some discharge happening, that's where you go. And if you can help it, don't reach out to that person. Yeah. And if you do it, give yourself grace and try to not do it the next time.
And try to, yeah. Next one. You mentioned about vulnerability. So a person, maybe many, come to our channel, and it's their first time going down this path. When you say vulnerability, what should a person keep in mind when it comes to their vulnerability? Some can think it's a bad thing. Some can think it's a good thing. Just a little bit, touch on it. We'll have other shows to discuss it in depth. Vulnerability, what do you mean by that? And what should a person keep in mind when they're dealing with unhealthy people and their vulnerability?
So in a nutshell, the way the caretakers we grew up with and how they related with us set a blueprint for all our relationships later in life. Okay, so if we had a very healthy parent that was emotionally safe, that was appropriate in their behavior and conversations with us, we learned, we received a blueprint of, wow, this is what respectful relationships look like. So then that is our blueprint, and anyone that doesn't fit into the blueprint, we go like, that's weird. I rather stay away. That's not for so many people the case. Luckily, it is the case for some, but for most of us who show up on this channel, this has not been the case.
Yeah.
Or at least one parent was unhealthy in one way or the other for many different reasons. Didn't know how to relate in a healthier, in a safer way. So when a parent would cross boundaries, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, energetic boundaries, what we learn is it's okay to cross boundaries. There's no sense of boundaries.
Correct. Yes.
So when I say vulnerability, it's like, oh, I'm vulnerable to boundary violation because that's what I grew up with. Mm-hmm. So then for me, someone crossing my boundaries, not respecting my boundaries would just be normal, would register as normal, not as unhealthy, because that's how I grew up. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm referring to is for those who start their healing journey, it's like a little introspection. It can be like a little meditation, go like, what I consider normal, because that's how I grew up, what was that like? If I'm being more precise than that's normal. It's not normal, it's just the way I grew up and what I consider normal. Yeah. So has there really been a safe space at home for my feelings? Because if there has been a safe space, and if my parents gave space, were capable to give space to my anger, to my sadness, to my disappointment, to my rage, to my happiness, then I will only seek those people.
Yeah. That's the bubble that they're going to always try to stay in.
But if they were not, oh, you're being so loud. Children hear that all the time. Be more quiet, even when they're happy.
Yeah.
So then it's normal for us to feel like, oh, there's no space for my emotions. And I will stick around people who don't give space, who feel uncomfortable with my emotions, because that's what I'm used to. But it's not normal. It's only what I've learned. So it's like changing that chip inside and go like, okay, this is what I learned, but there's other ways to be in life. And develop some curiosity around my own wiring.
Got it. Yeah. All right. We were doing a recap before we close the show. Validation, we just talked about. Vulnerability, Julia just touched on. The last one is, you mentioned in our show here today, I want to be prepared, or about being prepared. Can you touch on that one more time for us before we end the show? How can a person put that information into practice?
Yeah. sit down. You know your Thanksgiving is coming up. Summer vacation
That
is
family
coming up.
event's coming. Just get ready.
That exactly. That birthday is coming up. That whatever is coming up.
Oh man, you're funny.
And sit down and speak it through with
Uncle
your friend
Joe's
or
coming.
whatever.
Uncle
It's
Joe's
coming.
coming. Your sister's
It is
coming over.
coming.
Mom's coming. Dad's
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
My mom-in-law is coming. You know, that's like the standard
I didn't
thing.
say it. You said it. I was gonna say that. I even don't want to say it now. Have somebody write me. I don't get hate mail, but that might happen. Go ahead. You said it. All mail goes to the email address you see on the screen right now, or to the website. Just send it. All mother-in-laws send it to. No, just kidding. Go ahead. You were gonna say. Go ahead before we go.
I just thought I might be a mother-in-law at one time.
You can say it now because your daughter's still young, but one day you will be that mother-in-law.
Exactly.
Here comes mother-in-law Julia coming over. Here she comes. Gonna check out my kitchen and my cabinets, in my refrigerator. All right, go ahead. What a white glove going through everything. Go ahead.
You sit down and you go like, you see reality. You know, you don't fall for that old hope again. And that is easier with some, right? Be prepared. It's 99.9% this dream is not going to come true of that happy family reunion. And you see this triggering behavior will show up. So what am I going to do if and when it shows up? Okay, I might excuse myself. I might allow it 3 times and then just, I need to go. I might go there in my own car so that I can leave.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
I prefer to go visit people because I can leave rather than have them over.
Yeah.
I feel more stuck. You know, little things like that. I can agree with my friend to call me at 8 p.m. and we have a code word and I go like, oh, have you seen that show with the elephant? And that's the code word for her to know something really urgent, you need to come.
I'm using that
Whatever.
one. Have you seen that show with the elephant that stands on one leg and blows a horn? Signal.
So there is ways.
That's a signal.
There is ways to prepare yourself and to just be kind to yourself. There's no point and no need to expose yourself to re-traumatizing situations. Period. Just be kind.
That was. There is no point that you have to expose yourself. What was that again?
To re-traumatizing or toxic experiences.
I love it.
Just
thank you
just be kind to yourself.
Thank you for doing this today.